Hey guys,
Hey, this is Michelle.
and this is Mark. This is Mark and Michelle.
Right.
And so we're back again tonight, and our episode is a complete recovery, the outcome that we hoped for and that you guys are hoping for. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically describe what a complete recovery is, or what I think it is, and give you examples from my experience, and we'll tell a few stories. And Michelle can jump in here anytime she wants, but the only reason that you'd start down a recovery road for autism is to eventually get to an outcome, right? And that outcome would be a complete recovery from autism, right? But how do you know what a complete recovery looks like? Well, I think that at the very basic, a complete recovery is a person who had autism and who is recovered can now live independently on their own without significant support. Now, significant support, what would that be? In other words, requiring at least half of their life being supervised by someone else, a caretaker, a parent, a guardian, or whatever else. That's an arbitrary number, but at the same time, if you have to have half your life watched out for someone, having someone else watch out over you, then I'd say you're not living independently. Maybe 50% of the time you are, but to me, living independently, even people who are, even NTs need support. But for the most part, they're living their lives without needing assistance in making decisions, in getting dressed, in handling simple social interactions. For instance, did you know one of the most difficult social interactions for me for a long time was a simple greeting? People came up to me and said, "Hi, how are you?" There were numerous times I would just stare right back at them, and I wouldn't know what to say. I would be flabbergasted, or mainly because I couldn't be in touch with my internal feelings. I didn't know what to say. So simple interactions like that, when you need significant help making it through those, I'd say that you're getting significant support from somebody and you're not living on your own. So let's move on.
Well, I think it would be interesting to talk about why this even became a topic, because if you recover, and that means you're an NT. So what have you seen that made you say, I need to talk about a complete recovery?
Krista, okay. You bring up a good point. I have come across many, 1, 2, 3, 4, at least a dozen people who have said, I've recovered my kid from autism. And when I look at their child, or in a couple of cases, children, it was very apparent that behind their eyes, there was a part of their brain that was not on. It was as if there was no life behind their eyes. I had one woman tell me, "Oh, well, I did hyperbaric oxygen treatment for my kid, and he's recovered." But when I tried to interact with him, he was standing there like this.
Describe that for our podcast people.
And what like this means is he had his head down. He wouldn't make eye contact with me. He had his arm crossed across his chest, holding his other arm
Very tightly.
very tightly against his body, while the one arm remained limp. And to me, I'll go into it. Then that same lady also said, well, I did B12 shots for my daughter, and she's perfectly fine now. And when I looked at that daughter, who was the sister of the guy I just mentioned, she was standing there with her head down, wouldn't look at me, wouldn't make eye contact, didn't respond to her mother, didn't respond to my hi, how are you?
I think maybe some people think if there's been any change, then it's recovery.
Well, as you and I talked about,
change is better than,
and it is.
Yeah.
I'm not knocking that, but when they still need significant support after a complete recovery, have they improved any? And as you pointed out, because I don't want to be black and white about this, because Michelle pointed out a very important point some weeks back when we were talking about this very subject. She said the truth is any improvement is still an improvement.
yes.
And it is.
Autism is that hard.
Yes, it is. And this woman never described any of her kids as being severe. They still looked exactly like high functioning or moderately functioning people with autism. And so complete recovery. Let me describe that, at least for my life. When I was autistic, I had trouble just basically interacting with people when they asked me, hi, how are you? I did not know how to respond. I got stuck in trying to respond. All right? Now, when people ask me how I am, here's what I do. I am able to immediately assess how I feel, and I immediately respond with a great, or kind of under the weather. I no longer respond by using a script in my head. See, an improvement for me when I was still autistic was I would just immediately say, I'm fine. I was just repeating back a script, a play, a part, a role. I was playing a role. Now I'm not playing a role. I can feel how I feel, and I can respond based on how I feel, not on a script in my head.
And how the other person feels to you.
Exactly. Because as an autistic person, I was not able to assess what the other person was bringing to that interaction. Now I can, and now I temper my response based on my assessment of how they feel. That is called theory of mind, and that is in the autism literature, in the scientific literature. So I could post stuff about that at some point. Now, let's move on to, here we go. When I was autistic, I could walk up to a group of people, and sometimes I would just immediately start talking. Never mind what they were talking about. Never mind that they were involved in some conversation. Never mind I didn't know what the prevailing emotional context was of that group. I just walked up sometimes and just interjected. And it wasn't relevant usually because, again, I had not assessed what they were talking about, and I hadn't assessed what mood that they were in.
You didn't even know to.
Exactly. That's even more cogent to this, because I didn't even know I needed to do that. Now I automatically walk up to a group of people and I can tell right off what the prevailing emotional atmosphere is in a group, and I can easily take part in a conversation if I need or want to. And I couldn't do that as an autistic person because social interactions were too difficult to assess. Now I just normally automatically assess them, and not mold myself into adapt. There we go. I adapt on the fly. I could not adapt on the fly as an autistic person. Now I can. Let's see. This is very important. Another thing that I couldn't do as an autistic person is I couldn't hear inner yearnings for just things that prompted me to be interested in something else. I don't know what that word, a curiosity. Maybe that's it. I had intellectual curiosity, but having an emotional curiosity just wasn't really there. But not only that, internal promptings. Maybe that is a good, when I was autistic, I could not feel internal promptings. For instance, a friend of mine at work, she's having her birthday is tomorrow. And so I heard about that. I told her happy birthday, and I knew I wouldn't see her because I'm off tomorrow. And about an hour later, all of a sudden I get this strong feeling that pushed me to go get her a flower and a little card. And so I wrote happy birthday in it, and I taped it to the flower, and I went over there and I gave it to her and told her happy birthday again. See, it wasn't a thought. It was an internal feeling that pushed me to go do it. See, internal feelings push me to do things. Thoughts don't. See, as an autistic person, I couldn't even recognize those internal pushes, those nudges, intuition, because that's what it is sometimes. I couldn't recognize those. I didn't even know they were there. I wanted to hear that stuff, but it was cut off from me because of the autism. And so, to me, a completely recovered person is someone who can live the majority of their life independently and interact with people as equals and adapt to social situations as they need and want to. Living their life by their internal barometer as their source of guidance. I know that's a long definition, but at the same time, we're talking about someone's style of living. And when I was autistic, my life did not flow. In other words, I couldn't just allow life to carry me along and enjoy the ride. There was too much anxiety. There was too much internal stress. There was actually too much physical stress because of adrenal fatigue and general ill health.
Hypoglycemia constantly.
Right? So I'm going to make a huge pronouncement here. Autism is nothing but poor health. It is. If you take control of your health and you're autistic and you decide, oh, you know what, I'm going to be healthy. And you start eating healthy and, eating whole fruits and veg, staying away from high fat and this type of stuff. Don't be surprised if your autism disappears.
Especially if you happen to find the heavy metal detox smoothie.
That being one of the big key pieces to recovery.
Because you weren't completely recovered before. You weren't.
No, I
you were a
cannot
very
say.
different person, but you were not there.
Mm-hmm. You know, that was the last piece for me. Okay, other than a little bit of education when it comes to social situations, which I've got from her. But complete recovery for me, here's how my life is now. For the first time in my life, I've made friends outside of our relationship. And I mean actual relationships with other people. Because when I was autistic, I tagged along with her, and her friends became my default friends. Well, that was okay, but now I can feel connections with others. And because I do, if I have a strong enough connection, I wind up in friendships with these people. Like I have a really good friend at work. Well, I have 1, 2, 3. I have 3 really good friends at work. And
I bet they're watching and wondering if they're the one.
yeah, I know, right? But it has been absolutely fascinating because I now form friendships naturally. Because my whole autistic life, I went, how do you make friends? I know I asked her that question numerous times. I don't know how you make friends. How do you make friends? I remember one guy saying, oh, well, you just pick people out and go hang out with them. And I'm like, that sounded like utter crap to me. But it's not totally true, but it's mostly true. You know, you have connections with people, so therefore you go hang out with them. If they want to do that. You know what? Now, it just naturally happens. I naturally smile. I don't have to force myself to smile. People don't come up to me anymore and say, oh, you got to smile more, man.
Yeah, that happened to him a lot.
Annoyingly so.
Yeah, because he never smiled.
Right? And, you know, now, if I need emotional support, I can go up to some of my friends at work or Michelle and say, hey, look, I ran into this today. And Michelle will go, oh, that always happens to NTs. You know, because she helps me make sense of it. But you know what? Now I'm not needing that every day I come home. She may hear that once a week or once every 2 weeks or once every 3 weeks. You know, now, to whereas when I was autistic, it used to be every day. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
And I would be upset about it and constantly obsessing about it. So now I am free of my social inabilities. I am free of not being able to know who I am in here. I'm not talking about my chest here. I'm talking about who I am on the inside. Because I really think that knowing yourself is knowing the emotions that reside in you and why they do. Because that is a whole nother world besides the thoughts that you think. And so if you start to know, now I know what's in here emotionally and why. And that's awesome because people respond to my emotions. I am happier than I have ever been. I was not a happy person as an autistic person, unless, and if some of you autistic people out there think, well, you just weren't an unhappy person. Yeah. How happy are you with your autism? Don't BS me and say, well, I'm happy. BS. If you don't have the kind of employment that you want, if you don't have friends that you want, no. I'm not talking about other autistic friends. I'm talking about friends that you naturally make anywhere, then you're not really living life the way you want to. See, now I don't live my life dictated to me by the limitations of autism. I don't. There's nothing about my life now that is limited by the symptoms of autism. Do you think that's the case?
I agree.
So a full recovery, I wanted to live my life the way I wanted to. And as I tried, I kept running into the wall of autism. And when I finally figured out that was a wall, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to remove that wall too. And we did.
I think your last thing that you got rid of was motivation for yourself. To do what you wanted to do for yourself. And it's gone now.
It is. I don't know how other people with autism, other adults with autism have dealt with this, but I did not have a strong motivation to do something just because I wanted to do it for me. Just because I knew it would improve my life. I didn't. In 2004 or 2005 was the first time I remember actually that coming up in my life. Taj! And I was angry because here I was working for someone else instead of working for myself to improve my own life. And, and that I finally got rid of that lack of motivation, self-motivation, in the past few months.
It's been in the last month.
Mm-hmm.
Month and a half, maybe.
Okay. Month and a half. And so now I can decide what I want in life, and I can say, you know what, I want that, and I can go and get it.
But I want you to know that not everything was fixed with diet. We did a lot of energy work.
Yes, we had to change beliefs about I had to change beliefs about myself. I had to change my beliefs about the world that I lived in. I had to change my beliefs about people because I hated people. When you're autistic, people make your life miserable. It's not your fault. It's the autism's fault. I so remember so many professors looking at me because they saw me again in their class, rolling their eyes because, God, this guy again? And if I could see that as an Aspie, if I could see that as an autistic person, I know they were being very obvious about that. And so, and I've run into that. I ran into that my whole life as an autistic person. And I've heard other autistic adults say, don't treat us like we're stupid. So it's obvious. But when you're treated like you're stupid so long, you start to hate being around people. I had to do mountain ranges of forgiveness work to be able to be okay with people again and not hate people. Because the biggest thing you hear from autistic adults is, oh, NTs make our lives miserable. It isn't the NTs. Sure, the reactions aren't nice. They're not loving. I agree. But it is the autism that causes them to react that way and for you not to be able to follow them the way you would like to. And so getting rid of the autism, getting rid of the emotional traumas, getting rid of the anger and the frustration and the resentment.
And the beliefs. Because you were very paranoid too.
Yes, I was.
You
very
saw
paranoid.
things that weren't really there sometimes.
Yes, that's true.
Interaction-wise.
And I think that was the autism as well.
Yes, it was.
But I also think it was a mental habit that I had to change. And I did change that.
See, he had to change his neuronet because it was wired for autism.
Well,
so that was the energy stuff.
And I will say, and Michelle saw me go through all this, that the symptoms of autism cause your brain to think a certain way. And after you've developed those thinking patterns long enough, they become very deeply ingrained. And when you recover, you have to go about the work of changing all of those deeply ingrained mental habits. Because you hate people, but you hate people because your inability to follow verbal directions didn't work well. And so people got mad at you and treated you like you were a complete idiot. And so you started hating people. That was a symptom of autism that actually instilled a negative belief. I could give other examples,
Mhm.
but
Which might be what our next teaching slides will be.
how to heal the neural net.
Beliefs and all that.
But well, there you go. Beliefs are very important because any way you think about anything in your life is a belief. Oh, I couldn't do this. That's a belief. Because when you change that belief, then you can do it. I could never have the discipline. See, that's a big one for me still, because I constantly complain. I'm not nearly as disciplined as you. You know what? I must be, because I got this far. And, you know, I mean, I would like to be more disciplined. That's true, but I am pretty disciplined. But then stop and think about it. When you really want something in life, how disciplined are you? You're pretty friggin' disciplined, aren't you? Yeah, I thought so. And so, I mean, so I had to change those beliefs. But you have beliefs just like that you need to change. Oh, I could never completely recover my childhood.
Oh, I could never do that diet.
Right. Oh, man. God, I hear that so often. You know what? I didn't know if I could do a diet, but I started feeling so good. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep on for today. Do I cheat? Yeah. But I get right back on it, and I just keep doing it, and I keep pushing. And you know what? Finally, I realized I turned it into a game in my head. She'd always say during recovery, even before we knew I had autism, she'd turn it into a game. I hated that. That seemed so dishonest. Why turn it into a game? Why can't you just be serious and power through it?
Because it's fun.
Because powering through it turns it into a chore, and who wants to do a chore, right?
We want to have fun.
Yeah. Well, but I didn't know what fun was.
Right.
So I had to learn what fun was during recovery. But you know what? Now my brain has turned this into a game. Let's see how much we can do this before I finally get pissed off and start cussing and throwing people.
Throwing people?
Well, yeah, because this is a Worldwide Wrestling Federation match or something. Yeah. But anyway, we are well past time.
We are.
But a complete recovery is being able to live your life on your own terms when you want to, not dictated to by the limitations of autism. That's what a complete recovery is.
Okay.
Guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Keep doing that heavy metal detox smoothie.
And keep doing that celery juice.
And you'll get to a full recovery.
Bye, guys.